Hi, this is your Sapnil Bharti and welcome to another episode of TFR Let's Talk. SoftIron recently announced HyperDrive Performance Plus family, and we have with us once again Craig Chadwell, VP of Product at SoftIron, to talk about this release and a lot of other topics. Craig, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the HyperDrive. Just we have talked about it earlier, but I want you to just refresh memory of our viewers. What is SoftIron HyperDrive all about?
Sure, absolutely. So SoftIron as a company is built on the premise that hardware matters and that it's not a throwaway, that commoditization doesn't necessarily lead to the best quality product from an efficiency or security or performance perspective. And so we take this slightly contrarian view that you can build a right-sized machine to do just one thing and one thing exceptionally well. And so we've done that for running software-defined storage, and in particular running Ceph. And so in this case, we believe we've got a set of technologies that are more performant, more secure, more resilient, and more efficient, especially from a power and space consumption perspective, for delivering software-defined storage based on an open source technology. And that's what we call HyperDrive.
Talk about the evolution of this category at SoftIron and what new things are happening in this space at SoftIron.
Yeah, absolutely. So we recently introduced our HyperDrive Performance Plus family, which is our first set of NVMe-based appliances for those workloads that need very high performance. Our first set of products in that HyperDrive Performance Plus family are really focused around edge use cases where you need a very compact way to do data ingest or content movement and caching, or as a caching tier for a larger capacity storage cluster. And this is the first of a series of products that we're going to introduce in this space that are focused on delivering a very high performance in terms of throughput and low latency. Again, using standard Ceph and using our task-specific appliances. One of the key benefits here is that you can get a very dense amount of capacity of your NVMe systems, but it's also right-sized for the CPUs and the network infrastructure. So end-to-end, you've got a very efficient layout, and we're not consuming mountains of power the way that traditional commodity systems do it, and we're still able to provide line rate throughput for those end systems.
Since you mentioned edge, and I also want to talk a bit about how edge makes things a bit different, because you're talking about not only resource constrained environment, you also have to worry about latency, you also have to worry about connectivity, you also have to worry about manageability and maintenance of the device because that is installed somewhere in remote location. So talk about, when we do talk about these aspects from SoftIron's perspective, how do you make sure that the user does not have to worry about these things?
Yeah, so let's expand on that definition of edge for just a second, because once you tear away all the marketing mumbo jumbo, it is a relevant and distinct data center, or I guess non-data center IT footprint. I was reading an article recently about the way ASHRAE designs specifications for data center facilities and the way that they're really being challenged by edge footprints because IT equipment has been built for generations to fit only in those facilities that have also been very specifically designed to house IT equipment. And now we're not talking about those kinds of facilities. We're talking about structures, buildings that are designed to house humans or industrial facilities. And so now we're talking about putting high amounts of IT equipment in vehicles or barracks or caves or restaurants and retail facilities, and in higher quantities too. And these different spaces, they don't have the same environmental specifications, especially in terms of particulates, in terms of power, in terms of humidity and heat requirements. And so those things all have to be kept in mind when you're designing something that's intended to to fit some of those spaces. Because we are right-sizing our equipment, we have very, very power-efficient systems. And because we're using, especially in the Performance Plus series, NVMe drives, it means that we can survive some of the environmental characteristics, especially around particulates or shock and vibe, that you may see in some of those environments. But beyond that, to your point, one of the other key factors of an edge deployment is the fact that you may not have the ability to get humans out there to do maintenance on it on a regular basis. Or alternatively, the humans that you can get out there, they don't necessarily have the expertise to be pulling plugs or swapping out hardware, which is a normal part of the life cycle of any IT equipment. You're not going to get away from that. Things will fail from time to time, and they need maintenance. And so instead of flying very expensive people out to these sites to do maintenance, we've designed systems that are exceptionally easy to interact with physically, so that a person who doesn't have a high degree of skill set can do some of those basic operations tasks without taking down the entire cluster or without causing an outage unintentionally. And we've designed it such that the management interfaces allow the user to design the resiliency and durability characteristics that they need, and to very quickly do root cause analysis and basically build maintenance run books that they can print out and send to the person that might be in the field, or the person that may be contracted to go on site to do that maintenance, again, so that they can do that maintenance quickly and without having to be a storage expert before they do it.
Since there has been a gap since we talked last time, if I'm not wrong, I think early this year, I think it was March, that you folks also announced something called Hypersafe. I wanted to talk a bit about that also. So let's just quickly give us a kind of summary of what it is and what problem are you trying to solve with that.
Absolutely. So another one of the core fundamentals of the SoftIron business is this notion of meeting customers where they are, on their own terms and on their own turf. And for some customers, that means taking advantage of the infrastructure that they may already have on site. But the reality is, IT budgets are needing to be stretched a little more these days than maybe they have in the past, due to supply chain constraints or due to the normal growing pains that an organization might have. And so for the ones who are going down that path, or alternatively for the ones who have already gone down the Ceph implementation path on equipment that they chose to spec themselves, and using a different third-party vendor, we can provide an alternative path for Ceph support that helps them solve their today needs, and then also aligns very well with our HyperDrive platform. Our Hypersafe Ceph support services provide support for both SoftIron Linux and SoftIron Ceph on third-party hardware, as well as support for other Ceph distributions on third-party hardware. And because it's all Ceph, we can build out migration plans and lifecycle management plans for those organizations, so that over time they can transition into HyperDrive. Because the core belief here is that we've built a set of appliances that are the best appliances in the world for running Ceph, but that's not what all customers can do immediately. And so now we're giving them a path to get there on their own time.
Craig, once again, thank you for talking about not only, of course, HyperDrive, Hypersafe, but also Edge. That's what I was more excited about, to talk about the challenges and how you look at things. And you are absolutely right about people will define Edge in whatever they want to define, but the way I look at it is more or less like a edge data center, more or less. Of course, we have Tesla is more or less like edge device. It's just like a computer on wheels. And this use case is growing. So I would love to talk more to you about these use cases. Which also means that I would love to have you back on the show. But for today, thank you.
I'm happy to be back. Thanks for your time.